Oh, good morning. So as I listen to the introduction, of course, I keep thinking to myself, what am I doing here? I was happy with those first of three things that Tish described, but so here I am today. But anyway, thanks for the introduction, Tish, and the opportunity to stand in front of a kind of a large, I guess, discerning crowd with lights, cameras, press, whoever else might be here. I spent my whole life trying to remain, try to avoid being vulnerable. I certainly feel that way. All I got for defending myself is a microphone. So this is my first GEOINT symposium. Thanks to the foundation and the sponsors of the event. National defense is a team sport. Government, industry, foreign partners, academia, select foundations, and others. All of the supporters need to understand that this is, in fact, a team event, and they need to be on the field. I'm good with the opportunity to join Tish and help kick off things today. Hopefully I can provide some DoD perspective, some DoD priorities, and maybe more importantly, connect them to what may help you achieve your objectives for attending the GEOINT conference. Just a comment on how I kind of ended up back in the Defense Department, having never believed so. I was, again, just happy to be a SEAL and happy to go away at some point. But and in particular, how I ended up in the intelligence community, where my experiences, as you might expect, were exclusively as a consumer of intelligence. So first, I would say it's pretty difficult not to serve when offered, and I use the word offered somewhat loosely, to do so by someone as patriotic and someone as focused and selfless as General and now Secretary Mattis. Secondly, but probably even more importantly, I firmly believe the criticality of intelligence and intelligence systems to national security. And I don't believe it's ever been so as essential as it is today in the complex environment we all find ourselves in. One tertiary comment. I'm not going to seek a lot of speaking opportunities, but I thought this is an important one. And the tertiary comment is, if I had not worked in the commercial sector and come to learn how much capability and how much technology remains untapped from those places where a lot of you actually reside, I likely would have declined the offer. So my expectations are pretty high of a vibrant partnership with industry, and it will in fact benefit the execution of our national defense strategy. I'm certainly convinced of it. And along the way, maybe most of you can achieve your numbers or sustain some reasonable margins as well. So let me start, back to my roots of a battlefield. So I would say that recent events in Syria are really a good segue to illustrate that dynamic and complex environment that we all find ourselves in and how we can bring capability to bear. It certainly underscores some of the thinking behind Secretary Mattis's national defense strategy as it relates to, as you all should know by now if you've done your reading, lethality, partnerships and alliances, and maybe to a lesser extent, department reformation and department modernization. Those strategy tenets kind of connect to what has probably come to be known as the 2+3 focus. The great power competition with China and Russia, and the rogue regimes of Iran and North Korea, and the enduring challenges of terrorism and violent extremist organizations. I would say I count that as 8 elements, so 5 of those are playing out in some fashion in Syria. I would also note that geospatial capabilities and other intelligence enterprise equities are there in high demand and continue to set the conditions for critically important situational awareness and decision making. Needless to say, what was brought to bear in the chemical weapons facility strikes, collecting, planning, partnering, executing, assessing, is in part reflective of the capabilities developed and fielded through that critical partnership between the Defense Department and you all. That is what builds and sustains our competitive advantage. And that advantage, critical to our future success, plays out somewhere actually every single day. To execute the national defense strategies, the partnership remains preeminent to our premier military and to our global leadership. Again, the importance of what you do here and what organizations like you do and the collection of people like you is what drives our success. We want adversaries to understand that choosing to ignore international norms, to ignore international standards, and threatening the security interests of the United States, of our allies and partners, and the international community might be ill-advised and likely consequential. That offer of consequence, though, needs to be backed up with our investments and our capabilities across all domains: sea, air, land, space, and cyber. And these investments must result in battle space dominance. In view of my role in the defense intelligence enterprise, let me map out my interpretation of the Secretary's National Defense Strategy as I believe they directly relate to my responsibilities. So in no particular order, just in general, some of these are prioritized by me. You can probably extract which ones are most important. Support to the warfighters and decision makers with timely and relevant intelligence and perspective. Collaborate closely with all elements and organizations within the intelligence enterprise, that would be foreign and domestic, and integrate them where it makes sense. Actively engage with Congress and industry for support of our needs, leverage commercial technologies, innovations, streamline personal vetting and background investigations, elevate our security practices, which include mitigating cyber threats, enhancing industrial and supply chain security, and protecting critical technology. That's not an all-inclusive list, and it will remain just that. It's a list, unless it is resourced, has specific objectives, has aggressive timelines for delivery of capability, and clearly has delineated personal accountability. And I would say that falls upon me in a number of areas. So a few more personal perspectives and observation, and some of these will be reattacks in what I've just mentioned. And these are pretty much backed up by my, what I would say, 4+ months of being on the pencil policy and meeting side of lethality. But still informed, in my mind, everything for me is still informed by the honor and privilege I had to serve beside the selfless men and women of our services for essentially most of my life. And I might add, they are, despite what you may hear in some places, they are extraordinarily intelligent and they are extraordinarily innovative. So in no particular order. So we have the long-awaited budget opportunity to modernize and ready the force. But I can pretty much assure you the department will be very judicious about investment, and they will be very scrupulous about accountability for those internal and external to the department. We will elevate defense security, securing and protecting virtually every single aspect of our warfighting, which by extension includes, we're going to secure our acquisition process, we're going to secure our networks, our technology, our software, and most importantly, the equities of the men and women and families that serve. I think we are all aware that we should assume we are targeted in the cyber domain virtually every day. Future security demands will undoubtedly impose significant inconveniences and costs upon all of us. We will fix the background investigation process and the backlog, a cleared and trusted workforce. That's what the objective is, inside and outside of government. It is too critical to our nation's defense and our security work to not resolve it, and resolve it quickly. We will play offense and defense in virtually every domain, and we will plan to win decisively. Again, you all play a huge role in that. We'll grow and stand beside allies and partners with shared responsibilities and investments, and will respect the nuances and differences of sovereign nations. And we'll do that to a point. The department is incredibly well staffed with leaders that I am confident will aggressively execute our defense strategy and challenge perennial issues. We'll acquire things more rapidly, secure elements of the enterprise, invest wisely, leverage industry and business for best practices and technologies, and build a force that will dominate when called upon. Let me comment briefly on an emerging priority effort already embedded in many of the corners of the Defense Department: artificial intelligence and machine learning. I, and many in the department, firmly believe that leveraging this technology domain, much by way of partnerships with industry technology leaders and academia, will reap extraordinary benefits to the department's operations, in warfighting and in management. We are working to organize ourselves to advantage a multitude of projects without inhibiting dispersed initiative. In all the aforementioned, I would say again, lots of opportunities to help fulfill these aspirations from you all. I will finish with a few things that worry me. Most of these are outside of what I would call a major theater war or some type of nuclear event. And I'll go back to cyber. It's a domain to be leveraged and enjoyed, but one that presents insidious opportunities for adversaries and bad actors. We need to improve our personal cybersecurity practices and our tools. And we need to pursue those policies and authorities that address cyber domain risks while respecting our values, respecting our laws, and respecting our civil liberties. Building our future workforce, attracting the incredibly bright and technology-savvy generation into public service. We need your help. Clearly, the foundation is doing so based on the scholarship that you just awarded. And finally, sustaining and growing our technology advantage, certainly for our prosperity, but as well to address the changing character of warfare. We may not be winning that competition at this point. So I will leave it at that and suspend, and hopefully I can leave a few minutes to have a discussion with Tish Long. Thank you.
Good job. Okay. If you want to just move to
Sure.
Center, you can leave your things there.
I better take one in case here. All right.
All right. Undersecretary Kernan, I thought that was terrific. You really outlined your priorities and some of your challenges. A reminder to text your questions to whatever it's set up there on the screen. It'll probably come back so that we can get things rolling here. But until then, you might imagine I have a few questions for you myself.
Okay.
Okay, you mentioned one of your priorities was security clearance reform, streamlining vetting and background investigations. Can you give us an update? That's a topic that is of major import to probably every person in this room.
Yeah, so again, as I said in my remarks, I think there's a recognition, certainly across the Defense Department and certainly in the leadership, that if we don't have all the people cleared that need to be cleared, we're not going to get the business of national defense done. Pure and simple. I think the background is somewhere around 700,000, if I'm not mistaken.
732,000.
Yeah. Somewhere.
Just saying.
Yeah, I'm pretty close. Yeah, that's one of those numbers I don't routinely look at for the reasons you might. So we don't, at this point in time, the Defense Department does not own the background investigation process, but if you keep track of the secretary say, hey, listen, within the Defense Department, we cannot afford to be able to have these clearance issues linger. So essentially the concept is we're building a concept that leans upon what you all do. It's about innovation, it's about technology. And the premise behind the background investigation system that we're building, and over the next few months, it'll come into play. And I'm pretty convinced, I'm probably smart enough to be dangerous in the technology realm, but it clearly leverages technology. It actually will, in fact, leverage a little bit of machine learning and artificial intelligence. But the premise behind it is continuous evaluation and automatic records check. First, as we all know, every 10 years for a background investigation redo doesn't do us much good. What happens for those 9 years in between? If we don't track those things, then we're probably not protecting the environment particularly well that we all need to serve in, and particularly in this day and age with technology and people that are stealing what we're doing and all those other reasons that are out there. So the premise is that you can automatically or you continuously evaluate people by searching the networks that are approved to be searched. But if you come in and join the Defense Department, and if you come in and if you want a clearance from ministry, we're going to hold you to task on these things, because again, it's the responsibility for security goes all the way down to all industry and all those partners with industry, despite what that ecosystem might look like. And so what we'll end up doing, and there'll be a requirement for all of us to go through and use technology to automatically search databases to find out if something in particular nefarious is going on. And that includes the Insider Threat Program, which relates to monitoring insider threat, who's doing some type of anomalous activity in the Defense Department. So I think the key to it is continuous evaluation and automatic records checking that happens automatically and continuously, so that in fact we don't need to do a background investigation. We're talking the secret level, which is where almost 70% of the security clearances actually lie, and that's where actually the bottleneck is in the security background investigation process. So what that does is if we can do that automatically, and you can sustain your secret security clearance without having an investigator go out and talk to you and all your friends and whoever else they tell you are your friends, that's what consumes all the time, and that's probably fundamentally the backlog in the background investigation. So the continuous evaluation process will pull in technology, and we will automatically go through the massive databases, but that technology is out there to review databases and large amounts of data. And we'll put on the analytics on that so that we can detect those anomalies, so we can feel comfortable, again, that everybody that has a secret clearance deserves to keep that secret clearance. And now that frees up all that time and effort for investigators to take care of the higher level classifications, the 4 or 5 classifications. So obviously for those higher classifications, we'll have to go ahead and go through the interview process. So that's the concept. Again, it hasn't been approved yet. ODNI is the Office of the National Intelligence Office is responsible actually for certifying that. And what we want to do, of course, is certify that across government. We want that standard to be accepted across government. So if it's good here, it's good there. And I think we'll get there. So the Director of National Intelligence and I'm working really closely with them. Once they certify that, it should be good across government, should be good inside and outside of government. So a secret clearance, you don't have to go through a full nother process to go somewhere else. We'll work our way through the higher classifications, but that's the premise of the effort.
So that's very encouraging. I was going to ask the reciprocity issue, but you just answered that. Just a quick follow-up. So do you see continuous evaluation eliminating the need for the periodic reinvestigation?
Yeah, the premise is, again, this is the intent. The intent is the periodic investigations at the secret level consume most of the time. And so the premise is we're not 100% there yet, but I'm pretty confident. We've kept OPM involved. We've kept, again, the Director of National Intelligence involved. We've kept all of the intelligence elements, across defense involved in it. And so the premise is that again, that's what we hope to achieve at the end of this thing, is that there will never be a requirement for another background investigation to sustain a secret level. And again, because of the 20 to 30% exist at the TSSCI level, all the resources, that takes a little bit more time. And we have to work our way through, as you know, there's intelligence organizations that got to do things their way and want to be unique, and there's a little stovepipe issues involved there. We're going to work our way through that, but in my mind, everybody will benefit from this. But most importantly, the most important part, obviously, the security investigation is the trusted workforce. And I think the technology piece of this will actually do a better job than reinvestigations, because I'm not gonna, nor would you probably give the name to an investigator if somebody has got something over your head on you. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's useful and it's important in a number of ways, but it's probably not the best way, and particularly with the technology we have now. So that is the intent.
Okay, good news there. Speaking of technology, and you mentioned artificial intelligence, machine learning. Last year, we had Lieutenant General Shanahan on stage, and he talked about Project Maven. And it was just kicking off at the time,
yeah.
And gave some challenges to this audience. Can you maybe give us an update? Have you had any successes? Have you run into any roadblocks? And can industry help you with that?
Yeah, the question about if industry can help us with that, we fail if industry doesn't help us with it, in my mind. Project Maven was, before I came back in, it was a type of concept that most interested me because it obviously supports national security, and you can surmise how I might necessarily believe that. But the interesting thing about Maven, there's a couple of points in there that are important. Number one, the whole project was under contract within 2 months, and then within 6 months, it actually delivered capability. And the capability was not conceived of and tested inside the Pentagon. It was tested overseas, and I'll pretty much leave it at that. But the idea, and certainly from my perspective, don't be developing some type of situation awareness or some type of capability that serves warfighters, and you sit inside the Pentagon and try and make sure that you're addressing their needs. You address their needs by working with them. You need to work with the forces out there to make sure they understand what we're trying to do here. So that's a key element of the Maven project is that it works with the people that are going to be users. And remember, it's not to replace analysts. There was some concern that there was the Project Maven, AI, machine learning, all those types of things would replace analysts. That's not the case. Project Maven is about enabling analysts to be able to use their cognitive thoughts process more than have to jam, finger push things into a computer. We don't want analysts to do that. We need to use their intellectual capability, and machine learning will enable the humans to make the decisions and make the recommendations and bring things together so that we have the situation awareness. So the Maven project is AI and machine learning. We are going to end up with an AI machine learning center in the Defense Department. As we're working our way through that and really because there's a multitude of people that are working on AI and machine learning throughout the department. So we're not, as I said in my remark, we're not going to hinder that good initiative out there, but we're going to kind of try to bring them together. And the importance of bringing them together, in my mind, is so we can resource the efforts. The efforts, like everything else, has to be resourced. The Maven project is, I'll just say, it's well resourced. And it's the opportunity for industry to come in there and think about, again, the concept of it is at some point is, whatever intelligence is out there, whatever type, where it comes from, it doesn't matter, that it can be brought together, and we can apply machine learning and we can apply artificial intelligence and get that situation awareness we need, and you can go on from there, other than to make the right decision. So it has delivered in one realm. There's, again, a multitude of other, we're interested in where people, I think there's, you can submit white papers for it. So my promise is, if you submit a white paper, that thing's going to get to Shanahan, because I'll hand deliver it to him. I never liked the white paper piece because it would go somewhere and it would disappear sometimes. Well, we need to make sure, and the Secretary is certainly committed to that, and engaging with industry, but you engage with industry by partnering with them and doing something with them and reading what their ideas are. And so that'll feed into what kind of Maven is about, the algorithmic warfare, the building of algorithms. And as you can imagine, for people who are in business, there's a multitude of technologies out there that can enable more efficient running of a business at the same time as creating great opportunity and great benefit to our national security causes as well.
All right, well, that sounds very encouraging, and we look forward to successive deliverables there. Another thing you talked about was the supply chain, and I believe April is National Supply Chain Integrity Month. That said, what is your role in securing the supply chain? What are some of the issues, challenges, and again, how can folks in this room help you?
Yeah, I knew that was a supply chain something month, right? Not.
I think Bill Evanina made that up.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody understands this. I mean, by extension of everything we do, and it really relates to talking about securing the enterprise. I mean, supply chain management, it gets to, we're starting another, Ellen Lord actually was behind it, software provenance. So obviously everybody has seen and read about, where your software comes from, who's been fiddling around it, who knows the code, understands the code, can create a backdoor in it. So my sense is, and this is my sense, I don't know if it'll go there or not, any acquisition process is going to have a component now, any type of contract is going to have a component of security in it. So industry, just as we have to do, is going to have to secure the entire supply chain that they're involved in delivering something to the Defense Department, whether that's understanding what the software is, and that's the piece that by extension touches everybody that's in your ecosystem or in an industry's ecosystem that delivers to us. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be very difficult. But we've all read about where our networks have been penetrated because of a software that someone got their fingers on and fiddled with and created backdoors. And again, I think I mentioned, protecting critical technology. I mean, we're getting critical technology taken from us on a routine basis, and we have to secure that environment. It applies the same thing to supply chain. If we don't have a supply chain that can be delivered, that can deliver what we need to wherever it needs to be, efficiently, on time, and really the supply chain, we don't, as we used to do in SEALs, travel light and mooch. That stuff, the elements of the supply chain have to be delivered forward, and they have to be delivered in a timely fashion. Well, you can interrupt that supply chain in a multitude of ways, certainly in the virtual realm. So the idea of protecting supply chain, again, I'm preaching to the choir out here. It's just critically important. All elements of what we do have to be protected, and if it can be compromised through the network, then we have to be sensitive to it, and that gets to how we protect everything we do. It goes to when I testified, I said, again, cyber in my mind is probably the most insidious threat to this country. Again, it's not all those other things necessarily. To me, I believe we'll work our way through most of those, but you never know, and we have to be prepared for it, and we will be a force to be reckoned with, and we will hopefully deter all those massive things. But again, we are in a conflict, in my mind, in the cyber domain, and that's where the supply chain, is vulnerable to. So we just have to secure it. We're not going to be able to execute what we want to execute as the supply chain in general. Again, everything from spare parts to, there's just a multitude of things that, again, you all understand probably better than I.
So the questions are pouring in. Mr. Undersecretary, you've mentioned cyber a couple of times. We've got any number of questions here related to cyber. How about giving the department, or if not the department, the Defense Intelligence Enterprise, a report card? How are we doing with cyber hygiene, with defending the networks, with training our folks, hiring the right folks with the right skills? It's a pretty broad question.
Yeah.
Take one or two, or all parts of it.
You got any other questions? Yeah. No, I think the first thing I would say is, I mean, obviously we're not where we need to be. Again, and you can read about where there's been a number of penetrations and protecting. But I tell you, I do, my comment about the people in the Defense Department, I mean, I ended up being what I never thought I would be. First a flag officer, and now, back in government. But again, and as I said about intelligence, again, my experiences as a user of intelligence. So the types of things that you do in all the intelligence, it's too important to our national security to ignore. The operators and the men and women that serve, they will do their job, and they will do it extraordinarily well. We, you, me, others need to make sure we arm them with the tools to be successful. So in my mind, the intelligence enterprise, again, it sits in the middle. It is in fact CSAs, the combat support agencies. We have a responsibility to support, again, the warfighters. We also support decision makers. So we have to lean forward and get innovative. I just noticed Robert Cardillo sitting here. They've got a great AI and machine learning initiative there. And interestingly, each of the combat support agencies has an AI machine learning initiative in there that's really pretty extraordinary. So they're already thinking about it. So we have to, in my mind, integrating the intelligence enterprise is probably the biggest, piece of guidance I got from certainly the secretary and from the deputy secretary. It's not about reorganization. It's about making sure that we collaboratively work together. And if you look at the intelligence enterprise, and you look at all the pieces of intelligence that come there, and then you look at what DIA does in its analytics realm, if we don't have those all connected together, which again relates to where we can tie in machine learning and where we can extract knowledge and information out of massive amounts of data, to actually put the pieces of the puzzle together so that we understand what we need to do and where we're going and what the adversary, it touches all of those things. So I think there's a lot of initiative. I spent a lot of time with Sue Gordon. I think Sue Gordon's
speaking tomorrow.
So we spent a lot of time together. I mean, it is just important, where she sits and where I sit, and I also spend a lot of time at other intelligence organizations and agencies, because I mean we all have to be the sum of the parts greater than the whole. We're very judiciously going through NIP, as you're all familiar with, National Intelligence Program, Military Intelligence Program. I don't care about names. If it has intelligence on it, we ought to be collaborating with each other and making sure we're investing so that some of our parts are greater than the whole. And there is some duplicity in certain areas and capabilities, but I'm going to fight my way through that, or as best I can, to bring those things to bear. So in fact, we are efficient. So we're constantly looking at ourselves. I would say I think the intelligence organization is in pretty great shape. But I get to the piece, I'll always go back to it. And again, I worry about the young people being interested in coming into government. We got to encourage them. They're so tech savvy and they're so smart. We have to, get into their DNA and make sure they understand how important it is for national security. And then we also need to encourage them on, the types of opportunities they get to come into the Defense Department and do the things that are related to innovation and technology. But I do think we're in a good place moving forward in terms of people are sensitive to it. And then I go so what? If you're sensitive to it, put some money against it, resource it, encourage innovation, and then deliver something to the warfighter. So I think the mindset is there. And again, I'd save that question, ask Robert that question too, so he can talk about his organization. I know you'll do it for Sue Gordon as well, but I do think we're in a pretty good place. I do think I've never seen over the course of my career, of course I didn't see it as much in my younger time, where there is opportunity for partnering with industry and partnering with the defense intelligence agencies and the intelligence enterprise as a whole, because it is so technology centric. We've got the solutions, we just need to resource them, and we can't fiddle around with the long acquisition. There's lots of initiative to speed up acquisition. Of course, that's been going on forever. I used Maven. 2 months on contract, proof of concept, moving forward, and delivered something that I will just say is extraordinarily useful. I would have loved to have it in my past. So, and it's going to continue, and I'm going to keep driving it. It's a pretty well resourced. And then the notion, the AI machine learning piece. Again, that is going to incentivize everybody in the intelligence realm to make sure that we are excelling in virtually every domain. I meant that comment. Every domain is a warfighting domain, so to speak, now. So certainly what you all do here and what all the other intelligence organizations do, it's just you can say a broken record, but that your investment and your work with the department is critically important. Did I dance around it enough?
Indeed, and more so. You answered the question on attracting new folks. You answered a question on information sharing. There's questions on acquisition reform. Really the gamut here. But Joe, we are about out of time. So how about I just ask you that perennial question, which is, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
You know, what truly are the hard issues that you are grappling with, that Secretary Mattis is grappling with, and particularly from the standpoint, is GEOINT delivering what it needs to for the warfighter? What more can we and should be doing, the folks in this room?
Yeah. So, I got 5 dogs. That keeps me up at night.
No, that's not a good answer. I mean, that's a good answer.
I would say, you know, the shift in the national defense strategy, again, it has been a shift where we've gone back to the past a little bit when you worry about China and Russia. I mean, we are in an extraordinary competitive technology race, so to speak. And as you know, our adversaries have the long game. So again, you know, it really relates around cyber. My sense is we'll probably do a pretty good job at investing in and creating the deterrence that is critically essential, that keeps us to where we're out of that major theater war or some nuclear incident. Not to say that there's not that outside chance. That outside chance is what drives us towards deterrence. Really maybe what annoys me most is that we really haven't taken all the advantage we can of technology into the Defense Department. Running the Defense Department business, the Deputy Secretary of Defense is voraciously focused on that, and again, he came from industry, so he's driving that, and I think the Secretary brought him in specifically for that. People like Ellen Lord, people like Mike Griffin, those people are coming in and they're actually driving the acquisition process and the change in that. We're not going to take so long to do that. We need to stay inside loops, the adversaries' loops, and develop technology and be the leader in the world of technology. We certainly have the aptitude. That's not the issue. So the issue is keeping up in the technology realm, because I think it's such an important type of warfare. I mean, every system that we build has some cyber-related vulnerability to it, I would say. And so we have to build resilient systems. We certainly need a resilient system in space. You all can look at space. I mean, space is a domain that people are going to be. You fight in the space domain. Can you imagine if everything got neutralized in the space domain and we had to go into conflict? We're in trouble. I still remember how to dead reckon, but I'll bet you most people that come in don't. So we're in trouble. So those technology threats are certainly certainly worry me as much as anything else. And then just working our way through the civil liberties piece of how we, you've seen how we collect information, how we use information. I mean, it's been all over the news. I mean, we've got to figure out how to do that in a way that balances our civil liberties, but as well gives us a situation awareness to protect our country from a multitude of things, whether it's a terrorist activity, whether it's people stealing secrets from us. So I think probably in that realm, that's what worries me most, but I'm optimistic. Again, we're a resource. We have no excuse not to maintain our advantage in the technology realm, but it is a race, and people are after us, and so we need to stay focused on that. I think that's probably the thing that worries me most. So.
Well done, and it certainly is a race. Undersecretary Kernan, I, for one, am glad you are on the pencil policy and meeting side of lethality. Thank you for your continued service, and thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank all of you.